All right. For the second part of segment 1 today, we're going to look into urban ops. We are done with the main player's manual for Twilight 2000. I'm not going to cover the referee's manual. Referees can read that themselves. So at this point, you understand generally how the game is played. But there have been 3 expansions to the game. A couple of them very new as I make this video. The first one was Urban Operations, and this is going to add more to the city combat. Now, anybody who's in the military who's done mount training, mobile operations, and urban terrain knows that mount training really sucks. It's horrible, and but there's a reason for that, because city fighting is horrible. I don't know how this book is going to address that, but I hated mount training every moment that I had it. And I was Air Force, so I was like, why am I doing this? But it was really, really, really good training. And like I said, we're going to see if this book gets into it, because city fighting in a World War III style apocalypse setting is going to be commonplace. So let's see how this book dives into that. And of course, like, subscribe, and share, and check the description below to link to where you can donate to Legion Myth for more fantastic videos like this. We're getting no views on the Twilight 2000 stuff. He even thought I could make a video that just says Palladium and walk away, and it would get more views than I get on the Twilight 2000 stuff. Okay, so we're going to look at Chapter 2 specifically, because that's where the city rules are. I'm going to skip the new character classes. We'll look at it real quickly. Just say you can be a cop. If you want to pause it. Well, you're not going to get the entire thing, but there you go. And then there's the criminal, because why not? Those are the only 2 things that exist in cities: cops and criminals.
And kids. Always kids.
Yeah, but kids were in the first book.
I know.
The main book.
But there's more kids.
Okay, let's start with Fog of War. A major element of city combat is a limited battlefield overview. Your enemy could be hiding anywhere. To represent this in the game, the referee can use a separate, smaller version of the battle map, hidden behind his screen. Printer-friendly versions of all the battle maps from the core game in this module can be downloaded from the Free League website. I don't have a lot of the maps there, but I actually have a lot of the downloads on the Legion Myth website. It does say there, and I'll say it to you, go to Free League first, but if you're having trouble finding, I do have a bunch of the downloads on the LegionMyth.tv website as well. With that said, I don't have these. At least I don't think I have these. But yes, get those maps. Scribble on them, print them out, do what you got to do so you can have a player copy and your copy. It works wonderfully. On the referee map, the referee can mark enemy positions and kill zones. Can even be used to track the movement of enemies that have not yet been spotted by PCs. Ambushes. Ambushes are common in an urban environment. Yes. Again, I don't think that anybody who hasn't gone through mount training really understands just the crazy that happens in cities.
Well, I've spoken to Army and Marine personnel who actually did urban combat, where they had to go through neighborhoods and clear houses one at a time. Mm-hmm. And they actually told me, if you want to give someone PTSD, have them do that 4 days in a row.
Yep.
Because you have to be 100% all day, all the time, or your team dies. That is a psychological burden that if you do it too many times in a row, you just broke someone's brain.
Yes. And even outside of that, the training itself, which I think we give really good training on that. Our training was done by the Air Force, but it was done by Air Force Special Forces, not by the Army. But still, it was such an eye-opener. And you just don't realize all the places people can be to try to harm you that you wouldn't even think of as you're walking down the street. It's funny because I'll do it to my wife. I'd be like, we could have been killed there. We could have been killed there. We could have been killed there. She'd be like, what are you doing?
Talking about?
Yeah,
but all the places that we literally could have died easily.
Yeah. And that's by somebody either jumping on, stabbing us, shooting through a hole, having
lobbing
just
a grenade,
an IED. Yeah. And, whatever. Absolutely. So, anyway, let's go on here. Let's see. The ambushes are when you're about to move into an area controlled by hostiles. The referee can set up ambushes before combat starts. Roll recon for the hostiles, and remember to use the bonuses for waylaying and the terrain type. The referee marks enemy positions on the referee map to keep them hidden from the players. I'm liking these 2 paragraphs already so much better than the first book. Kill zones. Oh yes, real thing. Ambushing hostile forces typically start the combat in Overwatch mode. Yes. I'm surprised it didn't say that in the main book. Now that I think about it, doesn't that just seem like common sense?
Yeah.
But
they're waiting.
It never said that in the main book. Yeah, if I'm because that's literally what you're doing is you're waiting. That's what Overwatch is. You're waiting for a certain event. Yeah, so boom. The hex targeted by Overwatch is called a kill zone. NPC kill zones should be marked on the referee map before combat starts. Why? Well, I would say that you're not cheating, but you could never prove it anyway. It's because of the fact that you need to be prepared for this. Oh, hold on. Is this a kill zone? Well, you just gave it away that there are going to be kill zones there. So mark it out. Mark it off first. Typically, an ambushing enemy will fire immediately when you enter the kill zone hex, before you have a chance to spot the ambush. Yeah, that's why it's an ambush. It's therefore a sound tactic to place a kill zone in the first visible hex where the enemy is expected to appear. Dumbest, most important sentence that I've read in this book so far. Because that to me is such a duh. But we're gamers, and gamers like to do weird things, right? Defending PCs. If your PCs are the defenders, you can set up ambushes and kill zones before combat starts. You don't need to keep this hidden from the referee, who should act fairly and not have NPCs act on information they don't have.
Now,
in my game,
in the kill zone paragraph previously, it tells the game master must or should set up these kill zones for NPCs first before the PCs do. And don't change what the NPC has done.
Yep.
Yeah, that helps.
If the players come up with a great plan, let them have the great plan.
Yeah, let them have the plan. If they come up with a crappy plan, show them it's a crappy plan during the game.
Right? Exactly. The term I use in the game that I'm writing, and I use it probably to the point that people are going to go, oh my God, again, is a fair and reasonable game master. I say those terms over and over again to beat it into a fair and reasonable game master can do pretty much anything. Sometimes I add the word consistent in there as well. And that's what you need to be in these games. Consistent, fair, and reasonable. And if you do those things, even if it looks out of place for the players, well, guess what? They'll trust you. And instead of looking at, oh, there he goes, he set it up just to murderify us. No, you're going to look at what you did and be like, we could have had a better plan. So it should be adversarial between the characters, not the players, if that makes sense. So you don't need to keep this hidden from the referee. Who should act? Spotting shooters. After a successful ambush, the target does not automatically spot the shooter. Instead, roll an opposed recon roll with the same modifiers as the initial roll, except that all modifiers for darkness are ignored due to the muzzle flash. This is back to that. What movie was that in? I know it's told out in the world anyway, but Red Dawn. You only shoot once. Why? Second shot, they can find you.
Yeah, see that's what I have a problem with that paragraph. No one. It would be supreme luck that you happen to be looking in the right spot to see the muzzle flash from the first shot. It would be absolute dream luck.
It depends on engagement range and what's going on. But yeah, if it's a sniper, I agree with you completely.
And an Overwatch attack from a guy, up high or whatever, I would call that guy a sniper.
It depends on his positioning, but I get it. It depends on a bunch of factors. But yeah, at some point, you're not going to see the sniper. That's why they kill multiple people. At another point, if it's just some guy that's standing in a good vantage point, well, I can tell you that Marines and soldiers or at least the infantry, are trained to find those positions. So they can, I won't say instinctually, but they could point out somebody that might not be in the best position, but it was a good Overwatch position. So it really just kind of depends on what's going on. But I think, for snipers, I agree with Heathen Dog completely. Instead, roll an opposed recon roll with the same modifiers as initial roll, except, okay, I read that. This roll is not an action for either side. The target also gets a +2 modifier due to the loud gunshot, unless the shooter used a silent or suppressed weapon. Oh, for the love of God, these people don't understand silencers.
Well, not only that, they don't understand urban combat, apparently. Because if you're in an urban area and you fire off a gunshot, you're getting echoes from everywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, yep.
So I don't think that's a good metric.
You can hone in on it. Like, again, that's that first shot that surprises you that you weren't expecting. And I'm not saying at you. I'm just talking that happens. You be walking on the street and you're, where the hell did that come from? Somebody be like, I think it was over there. No, I think it was over there. After that, though, your senses kind of hone up and like, okay, that's coming from that direction.
Okay, so or have a dog.
That's
This is actually a fact. If in a gunshot scenario where there is echoes and you're not sure where it's coming from, the dog will look where the sound actually came from because the dog can differentiate an echo from a real sound.
I never got to do any training with dogs, so I don't know. But cool. I'm having a dog with me everywhere now. Weird. How do I sign up for canine? If the attacker wins the roll, he stays hidden, and no initiative draw is made. If you wish, the attacker can fire again with yet another recon roll afterward to stay hidden. I would actually probably put a penalty on there. Okay, now it's gonna be -1 because
just like you said, I would put a real hard penalty on finding the attacker for the first shot, but a real easy roll for finding him on the second shot. But it would still be a roll.
I might not go real easy. I think I just add the -1 to his recon roll to stay hidden, -2, -3. It really just depends on what the map looks like, I think. But the reason we're having this discussion though is so that you out there as the player, as the referee, don't just have to follow this text that was written right here perfectly. Do it make sense for your table, for your scenario? Just be consistent, fair, and reasonable. City movement. Any troop movement through an urban environment is generally done very slowly and carefully. For the love of God, you can't understand how ponderous it is unless you've done it. I've literally only done training, not real, and I hated every moment of it. Okay, hugging walls. When moving on foot through a built-up area, it's a good idea to stay close to house walls.
Yeah, it depends. RPGs are a thing, guy. I don't know.
When hugging the wall, I get what. Yeah, I'm not gonna
get the idea.
Yeah,
but in practice, when the enemy sees you hugging walls all the time, they blow up walls.
If they can, yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
When hugging the wall, enemies in the same building will have a hard time targeting without exposing their own position. In rules terms, whenever your character token is in a hex that borders or partially intersects a house or wall, any enemy firing at you from inside the building along the same wall immediately loses the benefit of cover. It's kind of like, I have to come out the window to shoot you. I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea of why it's doing that.
Yeah.
Or I have to expose myself above the stairwell in order to get a shot.
Yeah, I get it. That's fair.
And it's fully exposed until his next turn. So this gives an idea on the map. And by the way, they did a really good job of these tokens and so forth in terms of having it actually match what the tokens look like in the game. Do you remember what this little flag means?
No, I don't.
Partial cover.
Okay.
I hope I'm right about that. I'll laugh my butt off if I was wrong about that. Remember, I've never literally played the game. The 2 chances I've had now have both fallen through. Cover by vehicle. If you have a friendly vehicle in your hex, you can take cover by it, full or partial. Bullet magnet. Vehicles are bullet magnets. Mark the direction of cover normally. Any hit on a location behind cover will hit the vehicle instead. Sure. Additionally, you can move with the vehicle when it moves to maintain cover. By the way, this is actually where tanks are their strongest, when they're supported by infantry, at least in a World War II style, which, to be honest, this game is in a more World War II style tactics, right? So tank and with infantry personnel is how you move. Such movement uses your normal actions, but occurs out of your normal turn. You cannot roll mobility to move additional hexes,
or else you leave the tank behind.
I was gonna say, yeah,
and you're dumb. You're a dumb boy who's now going to be dead.
Bye, tank. I moved an extra hex. Ha ha ha.
I'm faster than you. Blah.
Right? Oh. To make it even harder for an enemy to advance through an urban environment, you can place additional obstacles in their way.
Yeah.
These come in 2 main variants: sandbags and debris.
Debris equals walls or cars.
Or rafters, or not rafters. What am I thinking? Steel beams, broken house parts, or
garbage.
Really, look at barrels. Burning barrels. Watch the end of Saving Private Ryan. These both work like debris terrain types. Described on page 57 of the player's manual, with the only difference being that sandbags have a standard cover armor level of 4. I thought they gave sandbags in the Oh, that might be the number, and I'm not sure, but I thought it was given in there. Excuse me. Placing obstacles, placing debris or sandbags in a hex on a battle map typically takes a shift of work. How big's that hex again? Oh, what's 1 kilometer, isn't it?
Yeah, but
No,
a street is not 1 kilometer.
That's 10 meters.
Yeah. No. I mean, unless you are filling the sandbags there and then putting them up, maybe 6 hours. Sure. But just to, flipping a car, throwing a dumpster down, that's 2 hours tops.
Well, okay. There are a lot of caveats to this as well, and I just don't want to nuance this in some weird autistic way. Here's what I'll say. I have built DFP, defensive fighting positions, by myself in just a couple hours. I've also built them with a group of people in a couple of hours or all day. And I don't mean one. I mean, we made multiple because we have firing lanes and we'd make multiple DFPs. I think this is done for the sake of simplicity of the rules.
Yeah. All right. Fine. No,
I will agree with Heathen Dog on for sure. If when we had to fill up our own sandbags as well, yes, tying the sandbags and so forth, that did take a lot more time than just stacking the sand. So sure, I understand it. Buildings. A major feature of urban warfare is obviously buildings. Close quarters combat inside buildings can be managed through the close quarter maps in this box set and the rules later in this chapter. Here follows guidelines for managing combat on the regular battle maps of urban areas, indoors and outdoors. For game purposes, center dot of each map of the battle map determines if the hex is considered indoors or outdoors. The center dot is on the building, even if parts of the hex extend outside the building, the entire hex is considered an indoor hex. Remember, this is done for simplicity's sake. If you have a way that you can make this more realistic at your table and want to do it, don't feel bad doing so, as long as you are consistent, fair, and accurate, and the players understand that before they put themselves in a dum-dum spot that they shouldn't have been a dum-dum spot based on the rules. Conversely, if the center dot is outside the building, even if parts of the hex extend into a building, the entire hex is considered an outdoor hex. Ruins. Areas of totally destroyed buildings are not considered buildings for the purposes of the rules. Well, good. I'm glad. Okay. Instead, those are little map things. They're considered hexes with the debris terrain type. I get it. In BattleTech, it could just be rubble. Okay, yeah. Intersected by brick walls. Got it. Okay. Or intersected by brick walls around them. So you treat that as the cover. All this was explained in the combat section of the main book. Blocked hexes. All indoor hexes are either open or blocked. A blocked hex is boarded up or otherwise intentionally obstructed. You cannot move into a blocked hex until it is breached. You can move out of a blocked hex normally, however. You can move out of a blocked hex. Oh, okay, I got it. Blocking a hex typically takes a shift of work.
Then how can you move out of it if you can't move into it? You still have to go through it. And it was a shift of work making it.
Well, usually when you block a hex, you're blocking it from one direction. Your direction, you wouldn't. I mean, you would technically be blocked. But so if I have my door closed here and I put a bookshelf behind it, it's going to take you a while to breach that. Me, I can just move the bookshelf away and open the door.
All right.
You still have to deal with what? Not a shift. What's it called? What's the? You got a round. I forget the middle one and a shift. A segment or whatever it is. You'd still probably have to take some time to do that. You can use the block tokens in this block set to indicate the status. The referee can mark block hexes on the hidden map, but should always inform players if an adjacent hex is blocked or not. The hex is always assumed to be open unless clearly designated as blocked. Yes, you can look at a hex and say the door is open or closed. You can look at a hex to see if somebody's put what would you say, a dumpster in the way or something, or a bookshelf in the way. So if you can see through it, guess what? It's not
blocked.
Unless you've got some sort of weird bulletproof glass. Don't get into that. This is a World War III post-apocalyptic game. We're not running around with bulletproof glass everywhere. A blocked hex can be breached by using explosives or heavy weapons from adjacent hexes. Only weapons with an explosive effect, blast power D or higher, so that's the lowest blast power, can be used to breach. Shape charges are especially useful for breaching claymores.
Sure.
Well, okay,
No.
that's a bad example. That's technically a shape charge, but not meant for this. Yeah. If damage done exceeds the barrier's modified armor level, the hex is breached and no longer counts as blocked for any purposes. Flip the block token over to the breach side. When attacking a blocked indoor hex from inside a building, the armor level is typically 1 because it's an indoor wall. And indoor walls are drywall and 2x4s.
Yeah. Which is nothing. A sufficiently strong guy can Kool-Aid man that. So whatever.
When a hex is breached, the explosive effect will affect only the breached hex. In addition, any booby trap or Overwatch token in the hex is eliminated. For these purposes, it can be useful to breach a hex even if it's not blocked. You got all that clutter, the smoke. You got, just the explosion itself. You got a lot of stuff. Slow breaching. You can slow breach. Cue the 1970s porn.
Lay that breach down by the fire.
A blocked hex can be breached using hard labor intensive instead of explosives. This requires a stamina. I'm not even going to read the next word. A stamina or tech roll and a shift of time if you last that long. Multiple attempts are allowed. Okay. Movement. Entering buildings. To move between an outdoor and an open, not blocked, indoor hex requires an extra fast action. To move between an outdoor and an open indoor hex requires an extra fast action in addition to the movement itself. Interesting. The outer walls of a building are high barriers as described in page 59 of the player's manual. Individual doors and windows are not shown on the regular battle maps. Instead, every building is assumed to have windows and doors allowing entry.
Okay, no. I think I get it. I think they're trying to differentiate between a regular building that has openings everywhere and a building that has been barricaded where the windows and doors are reinforced. If it's a regular window, you break the window, you jump on through. It's fine. It costs that extra action, but you can still do it with very little resistance. But if something is blocked or barricaded or whatever, you're going to have to breach it because all of the obvious ingresses are reinforced now.
Okay.
Maybe.
I don't disagree. I think that it's a rule that either needs to be better explained or it opens up a lot of ambiguity that it could have just done by not typing anything. If that makes sense. To me, anyway. I'd probably have to just see it in action. All right, indoor terrain. Inside a building, the indoor terrain type is used, but the maximum visibility is typically 0. You cannot see anything beyond the hex you're in. You can't see through walls and doors, people. And enemies outside your hex cannot trace a line of sight to you either, because they also cannot see through walls and doors. Note that this is a change from the rules in the player manual, is it?
It just sounds like it should have been in the player's manual.
Yeah. There's one key exception to this rule.
Oh.
If you're in an indoor hex bordering an exterior wall and have taken partial cover against the outside of the building, you have unlimited visibility in this direction, and enemies on the outside can spot you as well. Yeah, okay, get it, because you're technically outside even though it's considered an indoor hex. Because remember, the hex is whatever the center of it goes through. But in this case, you're technically outside. Going back to the original, the player's manual, remember you can be at two sides of like a stone wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird how this game, and I know it's trying very hard, and I'd say it's mostly successful no matter the nuances or not. It's trying so hard not to have a rule book that's this thick, but is still trying to account for every contingency.
Yeah, I know. It's really starting. The more it goes, it's starting to get this thick. It seems to me like this rule book and the water one we're gonna do next, they wanted to put into the single book, into the player's book, but they're like, no, that's too big. We're not going for that big. Oh, we'll split into 3 books. Well, we still have that many rules. I don't know what to tell you, brother.
I would tell you that so far this book, and now, to be fair, I'm only reading this chapter, this book is written much better than the player's book, because I actually agree with what He and the Dog said. Don't know if it's true or not, but I really felt that in the Twilight 2000 player manual, that page count was an issue. because that explains so many of the issues that we had with that book. If they just not worried about page count and just wrote the dang game, I think it would have been a lot better. Sure, maybe your page count is 10 more or even double. Who cares? It would have been more understandable. But let's see, on regular battle maps, you can only move one hex, fast action indoors, and no mobility roll is allowed to move faster because of walls and doors. This rule affects even a movement that starts in an outdoor hex and ends indoors. I mean, it does take you a moment to open up doors. I get it. So, here's your debris hex. These are not building hexes.
No.
Hex A is an indoor hex, while hex B is an outdoor hex. And this kind of has the Battletech rule of also with a majority kind of thing, even though Battletech also says center. So, again, you can tell the majority of this hex is inside. Majority of this hex is outside.
Well, no, we're not talking majority.
I know.
The center dot.
I know, but what I'm saying is even by looking at the majority of it,
it's easily noticeable, yes.
Floors. For the sake of simplicity, buildings on the regular battle maps are assumed to have 2 floors, a ground floor and an upper floor. This rule may be overridden by the referee or a specific scenario site. Inside a building, you can use a fast action to move up or down 1 floor. The corresponding hex on 2 different floors count as 2 separate hexes for the purposes of blocking and breaching. Yeah, you can't just, automatically shoot through a ceiling or a floor. Got it. Use the tokens in this box set to indicate which floor you are on. Rooftops. If you're a ferret and move across the rooftop, if you move 1 floor up from the top floor of a building, you're on the rooftop. Weird.
Ninja,
there you go. The rooftop does not count as the indoors terrain type, but rather as pavement. Okay, I get why. Yeah,
okay,
it's the rule. Sure. You a wide field of view, no obstacles to movement, and a bonus for firing from an elevated position when attacking enemies on the ground below. On the roof, you are exposed to enemy fire, however. Well, unless you're doing a hull down position where you're on this side of the slanted roof. And by the way, as somebody who's lived in Europe, American houses, Swedish houses. So you can easily hull down. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the idea. On the roof, you're exposed to enemy fire. But of course, I'd be exposed to all the enemy fire behind me, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's just mean. Don't shoot each other. Why? Oh, I was like, why can you see through this one? Because he's moving the hex. All right, we're not going to go through examples. We don't do that here. Combat. As per the terrain table on page 57 of the player's manual, all ranged attacks against a target in the indoor terrain type suffer a -1 penalty, while recon rolls for hiding or sneaking get a +1 modifier. Additionally, don't forget the modifiers for firing in close combat. In an indoor terrain hex, you can seek cover with armor level 1. So all walls are considered armor level 1. This cover is effective even against range attacks from within your own hex, because you're basically on the other side of the wall. If you shoot me through the wall that's in front of me here, a bullet will go through it. It's just drywall and 2x4s and some wires. But I forgot what I was going to say. But
you are given an armor level of 1 and probably other bonuses because the attacker can't actually see you, so you're going to get concealment bonuses as well.
So if he goes, other than maybe my computer monitors here, hopefully stopping a bullet. Yeah, right.
No,
I've seen that video too. Donut operators got it. Where you can shoot right through a computer monitor and kill a bad guy. All right, so the cover is effective even against ranged attacks within your own hex. Note that this is a change from the rules in the player's manual. Only applies to indoor hexes, but it does make sense. Furthermore, the outer walls of a building are generally assumed to have windows in every hex. Wow. On every floor. This means that when you're, that's 10 meters. Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. You can always find partial cover toward the outside of a building, typically with armor level 2. Why? Because outer walls are generally a little stronger than your inner walls. Go buy a door. Go put that indoor door on as your outdoor front door.
It's not going to work out. It's not going to work out for you. Well, here's an example. The house I'm in right now was built in 1940 something. It was for troops coming back home to make families and be teachers. That's what this
really. Your house is that old? I thought you weren't one of the form factor house.
Nope, I'm that old. And the inside walls are exactly what Max said. They are drywall, 2x4, and a wire here and there. The outside wall, on the other hand, is concrete, chicken wire, plaster, siding, and lead paint. All of that.
Okay. Don't forget the
All of that. So
asbestos.
it's yeah, asbestos too. Yes, that's right. Actually, I had asbestos tiles in the in the basement where I am right now. But we had a flood, and so I said, "Well, there's a flood. I'm just going to take them out." You know, it's hard to die from aerosolized asbestos if it's underwater. So I took out the tiles when it was a flood. So yay team, right? But anyway, yeah, it's much thicker and made with a whole lot more material than you know than your normal inside wall. Now, I have seen new construction where the outside wall is just as BS as the inside wall. I've seen that. I wouldn't want to live in that house, but I've seen it.
Oh my God! Look how much more we got to go.
We don't need.
Okay,
to do
we're gonna find areas to skip.
Okay.
I forgot what page I was on now. City warfare, spotting shooters. We did that. Okay, we're here. We're just here. That's it. Oh my God. All right. We are going to start skipping some things here. A couple reasons for that. One, I don't want this video to be 7 hours long. I know some of them are, but those honestly were player's manual books or rules that I think were
Are
important
necessary
for
the game. This one is an add-on. It's not as necessary to play the game.
I'm going to find the ones that seem to be most relevant or probably have other rules that other ones will copy. A rule that's kind of like an umbrella rule that others will copy. So we'll do it that way instead of nuancing everything. So we are going to have to look at some of the comment. We did the cover. Booby traps, yeah. Overwatch is already a rule. Explosions we covered. Doesn't look like anything big there. Matter of fact, minefields we'll be covering next week when we do the Black Madonna. Booby traps, IEDs, it talks about there. Breaching, okay. Firing blind, no. I'll keep that on the screen in case you want to pause it. Smoke, we already covered that previously. Terrain, walls, doors, got it. Close quarter combat, close quarter maps. I just want to make sure line of sight. Not going to really look at that. Blocking, breaching, close combat. It just seems to expand upon the rules there.
Yes.
Movement.
All of this is already covered in the main book, except for expanded rule sets.
See, we already talked about it being a fast action. You can breach it. It's almost like it's duplicating the rules here. I'm for that. I'm for duplication of rules. Yeah. Ending an engagement. Okay, let's. We are going to do the ending of engagement.
Okay.
So. All right. The close combat engagement remains until any of the following occurs. You move away from the enemy. This requires a retreat action, as per page 63 of the player's manual. You can move into an adjacent sector or stay in the same sector if you prefer. Note that moving out of a sector with an active enemy does not require a retreat action if you are not in a close combat engagement. So if Heathen Dog and I are wrestling, fighting, trying to stab each other, one of us has to make the retreat action. If he's over there shooting somebody else or whatever, I can just go walk away. Like, whoop, don't want to be here. Go. You knock your enemy down using the shove attack. You can also use a shove action to push your enemy away from you instead of tripping him to the ground. If so, the enemy character token. Move the enemy character token to any location in the sector within a 180-degree arc away from your token. Obviously, we missed a part here where it starts talking about sectors, because that is a new term that it's using a lot. Well, you'll find that if you get urban operations. All right. Ranged combat. We got cover, blind fire, probably a good rule. Overwatch, smoke, heavy weapons. When firing heavy weapons on close quarters map, okay.
Oh my God, heavy weapons inside? That doesn't sound like a great idea.
I don't think it's said inside yet. I hope it does. Firing at walls. Here we go. This is Heathen Dog thing. Using a heavy weapon to fire at a wall is a way to breach the wall. If the wall is breached, the explosive effect will affect the adjacent sector instead of just you.
Oh, okay. So, if your explosive heavy weapon breaches the wall, the explosion is inside the building. If it does not breach, it's outside. That makes sense. It explodes out if you don't breach the wall. It explodes in if you do. I get it. That makes
Talking about
sense.
explosions. On a close quarter map, the blast power of an explosion in an indoor sector is increased by 1 step to a maximum of 8.
Yeah, because the concussion is a bitch. Yeah,
and it's contained. Yeah, concussion and it's contained.
It bounces back if it doesn't blow out the walls. It'll bounce back on you.
The blast does not continue beyond the detonation sector, except in the case of large rooms or quarters divided into several subsectors, in which the blast power is reduced 1 step for each subsector away from the blast. Probably should have read that part on sectors. But I think you guys get, if you followed the video series this far, you get what the game is selling right now.
Yeah, in close quarters, an explosion is double deadly. It's not great. You don't want it.
Lots of tokens, lots of people on the map. Not going to try to. It goes. You can see the example here. It's a long one. I love long examples, but we're not going to cover them here. So
yeah, if you want to ruin everyone's day who's inside that room, throw a grenade literally anywhere in that room, anywhere, and everyone in that room is going to have a bad day. Everybody.
All right, city map, city travel. Do we care about that? Checkpoint. Ooh, checkpoints. Marching, stretch of time. In a stretch of time, you can march a 200 meters city hex. Okay. Driving, fuel consumption. Already told us how to deal with some of that. Backing off from an encounter after successful recon roll on a city map. You need to immediately move back out of the hex with your next move, or you will be spotted. That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Checkpoints. Most cities have checkpoints. These functions as set encounters pre-positioned in specific hexes. Your PCs might be aware of locations of some checkpoints, while others will be unknown to you and known only to the referee. You know, this is what the cops, they do the sobriety checkpoints.
Yeah. They come up in 5 minutes, they last an hour, and then they go away. Stuff like that could happen to you. As
usual, recon roll is allowed to spot a checkpoint before it spots you. If you succeed, you can back off as per the usual rules. All right, and there we go. I know we skipped a lot of that, but if you saw me scroll through, hopefully I wasn't going too fast. Most of this, I don't want to say self-explanatory, but didn't change a lot. Just probably add more, not probably,
expanded.
Expanded or added more clarification. You saw things in here about blind firing and so forth that aren't in the main rules. Makes sense, when you're talking about cities, so forth. But generally speaking,
blind fire is important, especially in indoor hex combat, because you can easily shoot through indoor walls, but you're doing so without knowing where your enemy is. So they have perfect concealment, but crappy cover. And so you're going to need rules for that. I get it.
There you go. You could pause it while he was saying all that, and you could read blind fire. So, all right. So next week, we are going to look at minefields and naval combat, and we are done with Twilight 2000. It's a long video series. I actually am happy with it. I was telling Heathen Dog this, I think, last week. I'm actually happy with this. One of the things I did with this series that kind of started before but didn't really dive into was really making sure that trying to keep the video shorter. Yeah. Instead of having multiple 2-3 hour videos when we're not supposed to have the videos that long just to get through a whole chapter, even some of the chapters just cutting up. Okay, like the combat chapter, I cut into 4 different segments. And I'm going to continue to do that going forward with games. I'd rather have a 20 video series and have the book itself take more weeks than have 5, 4 hour videos and have people watch 20 minutes of it. You know what I'm saying? So I think this has worked out here. Maybe a bad game because a lot of people just aren't interested in the game apparently. But with that said, I like the way this is. I'm going to continue doing this going forward with the other games that we cover. So Comments, questions, concerns from the audience?
Not a lot. I mean, there were comments, but none of them actually need to be addressed. No one's asking about rules or stuff. They're pretty much, just talking about, I read this thing or saw this thing about urban combat, and it makes sense, stuff like that.
And the comment about the claymores, I get it. It is still technically shaped, but that's why it popped in my head first.
Yeah, but it's anti-personnel, not anti-vehicle or building. Yeah,
that's why I corrected myself.
And you are correct for correcting.
All right, well then I guess with that we're done for today on this one. So please like, subscribe, and share. I'll put nope, I'm not going to put a spoiler out there. Some people know what the next game is going to be that I cover, but you'll follow Legion of Myth and you'll learn what the next game is. Next week will still be Twilight 2000. Next week will be the last week of Twilight 2000, and then Heathen Dog, what are we doing the week after that?
The week after next week?
Yep.
I don't
October
know.
6th. Kevin and Sean will be here to talk Palladium
October 6th.
books.
Okay, yep. And we'll be talking about wilderness travel, among other things. Something that apparently lots of people don't do in Rifts, and we're going to yell at you.
Yeah, we're gonna try to figure out why. So look forward to that, and then the new game will start. So if that's sick on the 13th. So look forward to talking to y'all then.